Are you thinking about getting Sales Navigator or not sure if Sales Navigator would be a great tool for your practice or business? Then stay tuned. My guest will be answering your questions about Sales Navigator and more, and I'm excited to bring them on as well. Welcome everybody to this episode of Journeyman Entrepreneur, where my guest, which who's on the screen a lot of times, they're not, but today I was going to be like special, is going to be sharing their journey. But before we get more into my guest story, my name is Shri, and I am a video marketing producer where my team works with medical, dental, and law practices to use social media, video, live streaming shows, and podcasts to gain raving leads that want to work with their practice. And by doing that, this will be able to help you expand your team, expand locations, even help you get on stages so you can promote your practice. So, without further ado, let me tell you about my guest. He is a serial entrepreneur, a sales navigator consultant, a digital marketer who works with sales teams to identifying your ideal buyers, and he really understands Sales Navigator. My guest is Philip Horne. So, Philip, let me ask you something. It's 5 o'clock in the evening where you're at. What would you have been doing if you were, since you're doing this live, but what would you have been doing?
It really depends on what weekend it is, because like last weekend I was watching Six Nations rugby with Scotland playing against England. So fortunately we won. So that's always good to beat the big cousin down south. So that was what I was doing last week. Sometimes doing a little bit of work. Sometimes walking up a hill. I like my exercise. So doing something outdoorsy or even indoorsy sports wise.
Ooh, I would like to know in the comments, or if you're catching this episode on the podcast, if you watch rugby or if you don't even know what rugby is, drop your questions because, for some of you who don't know, rugby is similar to football, right?
It's no. Absolutely not. It's closer to your American football, but you can't pass forward. There's 15. There's only 15. There's not attack and defense. There's only 15. But it's basically a very physical game. There's lots of tackling, like American football. It doesn't take 3 hours or whatever it takes for American football. It's 80 minutes, 40 minutes each way. So, but it's pretty physical game.
Well, look, I think it's fascinating. And if you're joining in on the replay or the live right now, let us know where you're tuning in. Hey, Mark, wonderful to see you. Mark, do you watch rugby? I would love to know. So let's get into this. Philip, in 2000, you started your journey of being a digital marketer. So, the super curious person that I am, I wanted to know, what were you doing before then?
I basically went to uni, finished the degree, didn't like it, but finished it, did an MSc, just to sort of bide some time. Then got a job, worked for a company called Digital, who then got bought over by Compaq, who then bought over by HP as a process engineer. Then went back to uni again and did another MSc in investment analysis. So analyzing the stock market. When I was down in London at interviews, Philip is getting ready to take a mugshot. All right. Prisoner cell block H. So basically down in London at interviews and had an idea for a .com business. So and ended up doing that instead of joining the market down in London. And so that's how I got into sort of digital marketing. And that was basically, didn't know anything, outsourced the marketing to a company in Edinburgh. So I'm based in Edinburgh. They built a website, and they were learning. They were 1 minute ahead of us, basically. And the digital marketing aspect of it was horrendous. Like within a week of reading up on the internet, I knew more than they did, which was pretty shocking. And we were paying quite a lot of money. So that actually wet my whistle for learning how to do it myself. So started doing a bit of SEO, then Google AdWords, and then in 2014 got into LinkedIn. Started looking at LinkedIn and Sales Navigator, and then 2015 started teaching, and then started running campaigns and helping people run campaigns. Because I find training a little bit frustrating because people turn up, lots of positive energy about it all, and then basically don't do any of it. so basically, helping people, consultancy is a lot more effective than training in my book, because you're working.
So you were first working for someone, and then you kind of like, hey, this is something I would not want to learn, and you started learning. And I do want to get back to some of these comments. So Mark does watch rugby, and he says that you're from the Sade side too. So now I'm like curious, Mark, where you know what? Go ahead and connect with Phil, tell him that you saw him on this live. But also, I would like to know, where are you? Because it would be real funny if you guys are like 20 minutes apart, because that would be funny. And then we have Robert who's saying, are you getting ready to take a mugshot? I was thinking that too, but I didn't want
to. What? Someone that's happy about to go to jail.
So Robert's asking, how easy or difficult was it for you to teach yourself?
Teach myself digital marketing. To be honest, at the time there was when I started off, I was doing SEO, and nobody even knew what it was. So I was having to educate the audience, educate the market, educate the web, the people that were actually building websites as well. So they were customers. So I got referrals from customers, because basically it was obviously enhancing what they did. Because obviously, if they're going to get business top of the rankings and people find their clients, then pat on the back for them for passing them on to someone that can help them further than they can. But obviously then some of them started doing it themselves, looking to do it themselves, and offering a sort of a little bit of a reduced service, because they what is SEO, title, description, that's what some of they were doing just on like the homepage, whereas what you have to do is keyword research. You have to analyze what you should be targeting, what's the themes on every page, etc., and creating content based on themes. So the service that I was delivering was far more advanced, but it's difficult for general public to know the difference. And it's a little bit the same on the LinkedIn game as well. There's lots of LinkedIn providers that do say they do X, but when you look into their profile and how long they've been doing it, that they've probably not got the experience, and they might be winging it a little bit. So yeah.
So what you're saying is that you can learn to do it. There's the shortcuts, and there's the really diving deep. And I find that nothing's really changed from back then until now. I'm just saying,
Yeah, well, it's difficult. It's difficult for learning stuff. You have to actually implement it as well. It's not just about learning in theory. It's about actually implementing it and improving on it, and taking metrics and improving, basically. Because ultimately, what's the end goal for most people? It's to generate opportunities, start talking to people, and then take them off of LinkedIn, get them into discovery call, and help them. Basically, it's all about helping and adding value.
So Now that you learn how to do it, you started learning digital marketing, and Mark is saying that referral work is golden. We are a bit further than 20 minutes. I'm in London. So,
Yeah, a little
but, were you on any social media platforms before you came over to LinkedIn?
bit. Facebook, Facebook, just from a personal point of view. LinkedIn, I joined in 2007, so reasonably early. I was doing networking, offline networking, and it seemed like a natural progression to, go online. But to be honest, like most people, they set up an account, you know, fill it in a little bit, especially at that time, and it really wasn't designed. It wasn't this. It didn't have the same functionality as it has now because it
Yeah,
is it's a
wasn't like
content
that is.
platform. Sales Navigator didn't exist at that point. So the model of what LinkedIn was not there. It's not the same as it was today. And obviously, Microsoft, I think it was 2016, bought LinkedIn. So they obviously, they wanting to monetize it as much as possible. And that's continuing now. Free accounts can only send 5 personalized messages now, which
I
happened.
think it's 3. It's up to 3.
Is it
But
3? Because on the free account, I've obviously got a Sales Navigator account, but I've seen that it's 5. But is it 3 on 3 on your account or?
no, I have a paid account. I don't have the business one. I have the one that's like lower. I can't put the link. But I will say that I remember being on LinkedIn in 2007. And I remember my friend, he was telling me, he was like, hey, get on this platform because you can start to network and then you'll get a job. And at first I was like, what do you mean? And it was just, there wasn't any kind of tools, or nobody was really talking about how do you use LinkedIn. And when I got back on the platform, which is 10 years later, which is in 2017, a lot had changed. So I saw people were posting, but again, I wasn't like, I just knew this. I just started clicking and connecting with people.
Yeah, the thing is, you've got different users. So people that are employees that aren't in jobs that are sort of client facing, they're only going to use it to spruce up their CV when they're moving job or looking to move jobs, get some recommendations, as lots of people do. You see people getting blocks of recommendations. All right, I'm getting a new job. I need to get some positive things of people saying things, to sort of spruce up their profile. So people, though they're people that are not client facing, there's not really much point in them having Sales Navigator because why would they do it? But people that are client facing that want to actually grow, their network, want to basically reach out, gain visibility with people that can potentially buy from them, whether that's through content or whether that's through messaging or whether that's through commenting. These are all ways to get visible. But the employee, yes, he can build up his network, and yes, that's useful, but they're more looking at it as sort of a landing page, so that they give their CV and someone goes and looks at the LinkedIn account and it looks okay.
So this is a really good question because it will lead into more about, how you go about before you get Sales Navigator, what you need to do. Because the Mark is asking is how important is it for CEOs to get their teams to build their LinkedIn profiles also?
Everyone in the business should have a similar message, should have a similar banner. It's about brand consistency. But obviously, it's a personal account, and that's where it's tricky. Obviously, you want, the ideal scenario is that everyone is on board. Everyone's an advocate for the business, and everyone's supporting the content. Everyone's sharing and commenting, and basically being part of the team. But the reality is, there's always people that are not going to do that. They won't want to change their banner. They won't want to do this. So, I think it's picking and choosing as well. The people in the background who aren't client facing, it's obviously less important for them to, have a fully optimized profile. But obviously, the more consistency there is across the accounts, the better.
I agree. Like we have a clinic and there are 3 doctors. What we did for them is we made the banner for the owner, the founder, but then for the other 2, he asked, we said, hey, we could do it for the other 2. He said, first ask them. And if they want it, then we'll have, I'll
Yeah,
get it done for them. And that's exactly what we did. But what we did is we personalized it, meaning we put their picture. We kind of asked a few questions to understand them. So we put that in their banner. So technically speaking, if they were to leave, they could still use the same banner. Of course, they may not like the colors because it's the company colors, but it's still them because we understand that it is their personal profile, but yet they still are a voice, which gets me to, this question. So here you are, you're hearing about Sales Navigator, and everybody, many people who rave about it understand the tool, but there are those who don't rave about it because they didn't understand the tool. So the first thing I want to know is what should you do before you get into investing in Sales Navigator?
well, you should find out about what the tool does, because I think a lot of people sign up for a 30-day trial. You should do your prep work first as well, because you want to maximize that 30-day trial. So, have a think about who your buyer is. Because if you get to the search and you're going, actually, who am I going to target? And then you just put in some random stuff, which is what I see a lot. People, not actually target. It's too broad. And obviously, as you'll know, Sri, you've got to optimize your profile based on what you're offering, who you're targeting, and make sure that the company looks credible, and you're showcasing the company and the results that you get through it. So the process I take clients through is a 3-step process. First step is the foundations, which is identifying buyers offer, what's the offer, positioning themselves, and then ultimately optimizing the profile, basically building up credibility for the person, the company, and the solution. Stage 2 is setting up Sales Navigator. So, once you know who you're targeting, you can obviously set up, as I call it, a master search. You can set up, someone's clapping. You can set up a master search. You want to bring in your existing audience into Sales Navigator as well. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to get it ready. It's a bit like the profile optimization. Get the foundations right. Sales Navigator, get the foundations right for Sales Navigator for stage 3, which is running campaigns. Because what you don't want to be doing is, I talked about a master search is basically going, oh, what was that filter again? So you get a master search. So then that's sort of blueprint to start other searches from, which is why it's called the Sales Navigator Blueprint.
Hey, it sounds really confusing to me, but we'll rewind it back to what you said earlier. You really need to know who you're targeting. And I remember I reached out to Philip like last year. He was like, okay, so you want to target medical, dental, and law practices, but do you know what type of law do you want to target? Do you know how many employees they have? Do you know if they have a marketing person? Would you be interested to target someone that has a marketing person? Like he asked detailed questions that it made me, as much as we want to get Sales Navigator, it does help to do your homework and know that.
Absolutely. And you want to target, people have got different personas as well. So one of the things that we do in the foundational work is actually talk about, what are your personas, but you want to, your ideal persona, you have to still be able to find them via search. So if you can't find them via search, which your personas you can, because basically, legal services and law practices is two industries out of the 420 or something. So those are 2 that you can actually, right, we know that these are the right companies, but you want to obviously target the right people at the right companies. And obviously there's a champion that's going to be the one that actually cares the most about what you offer. But then you've got influencers, and you've got people that then ultimately make the decision. So they obviously target the champions, but if you can't always get to the champions, but connecting with more than one person at a company, and building that relationship with them, adding value, insights, reaching out based on relevancy, and not just generic nonsense, basically.
But it makes sense, because now it has me thinking, like, who are the champions and who are the influencers? And it gets you to really look at things differently, because sometimes we overlook those things. We think that it's X person, but X person has multiple. Now, I understand it's easier if you are on a sales team and then you have certain things, but I will never forget when I was watching Microsoft Dynamics, where it was showing how they were merging and making you aware of, like, okay, this is the ultimate decision maker, but you might be missing who are the influencers and who do you need to be in front of. And then kind of like, and now also giving a little bit of a demonstration of Sales Navigator playing a role. But before we get to more, I want to give, we have G here, who I'm always happy to see when she shows up. She says, thrilled to catch this combo today. Brain consistency among all employees, cross organization is key, but it's always comes back to not forcing them. Employee advocacy only works if it's encouraged, not forced. I agree. And it's always wonderful to see Inger. And she's saying exactly, it's all about knowing your audience. So, okay, so we understand who we're speaking to. We have changed our profile to make sure that this is what we're doing. Now, now in Sales Navigator, you're saying that, okay, once you know who you're speaking to, who are the influencers, who are the champions, can you make lists from them?
Yeah, yes, you can. You can basically target. You can set up a search, as I say, the master search that we set up, and that finds the right people. There's other elements about setting up the Sales Navigator, but it's about getting that set up right first before you move on to running campaigns. So campaigns can be building more of those people. How many of these people, first connections, do you currently have in your network? Obviously, most people do not engage with people on an ongoing basis, because they think I'll do a bit of content and I'm sure people will see it. Well, not really. The good thing about messaging and messaging based on insights is you're in control. You know that someone's going to reach it, and if you reach out based on relevancy to them, then they're more likely to A, read it, and B, respond.
So it's a targeted message that they are getting, correct?
Yeah, you should everything should be relevant. It should all be about relevancy. And in the Sales Navigator blueprint, the campaign execution, we've got 11 sort of core strategies that we run through. So what we're doing is we're creating meaningful touch points on an ongoing basis without obviously bombarding.
So how long does it take once you start implementing the blueprint that you've created? Do you start to see results? Can it be done within the 30 days of the trial?
Yeah, well you can get basically results. Like, I started targeting Dubai a couple of weeks ago, and within this is basically a new market that I'm looking at, and I basically had 5 meetings within a week. So, and that was, I didn't have an audience. That was basically just because of my the messages that I was sending out and the interest I was gaining. So it's about getting the right message in front of the right people, and it's the hungriest people, the people that are sort of most emotionally involved in whether they use you or not, are the people to target. They're going to be your champions because they care the most. And if you can't, if your champions are people that aren't on LinkedIn, who are the people that can influence them?
And that's where you got to do some digging and find out. And I know you don't want to give all the juicy details because we know that.
Absolutely not.
But I will tell you, because it's not Philip. I'm just going to say from my personal experience, one of the ways that I find out people is I go to their website and I go to their company page and I kind of do a little bit of digging that way. And that's how I find out who is who. And then based on if they post, now if they're not posting, it's a little bit more difficult, but that's when you find out where are they going. And this is like the same thing I did for finding a job too. It's like, where are they hanging out? Like, where are they going? And how can I get to that place? Is it something, if I can't afford it, okay, is it a free event? And I remember this is just for a job. There was a company that was doing a networking event and it was free and you could learn something. But what people didn't know is the actual executives and the people who are hiring were there. And there was one person that was sitting at a table by themselves and just going over there and talking to them. Next thing you know, you're in the circle of meeting all the people. And when the job comes, the job comes. But that was something that I learned years ago that I apply even to today. So I know Philip didn't say it, but I bet it's probably a tip he puts in the blueprint, which means how do we go about getting that blueprint?
You basically book a discovery call with me, and then I'll tell you a bit more about it, and then we work together.
So that's what we have. Okay, so you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and drop your links in the comments because that's what I do. And then everybody else can figure out, you want to definitely connect with Philip. If you have more questions, book a call, ask your questions, because at the end of the day, we're here to help you make sales, get leads, and so you could do other things. But at the same time, I have seen like people who've used Sales Navigator and they're like, it doesn't work. And I'm like, no, it really does work if you know how to use it right.
Yeah. You have to take the time to set it up correctly so it's configured for your situation, and you also have to learn the functionality, and you also have to have good strategies to actually run through it, because it's essentially a hub for all your activities. You can use it for tracking where people are. You can use it for insights. So basically, it's about creating meaningful touch points on an ongoing basis. I'm going to book a call so that I can bug you, Philip.
That's Robert saying that. I'm going to take a call so I can bug you, Philip. I don't know if you'll accept that appointment.
Delete. How did that happen? Always a pleasure to speak to you, Robert.
So if you're thinking about getting your sales team using Sales Navigator, but you're not sure if it's the right tool, or you already made that decision, but you're not sure what's the next steps, definitely reach out to Philip. Let him know that you saw him or heard about him from my show, either the podcast or the live streaming show, so he knows. And then two, you will see what a difference it can make once you have the things that you need to plug into Sales Navigator and start getting those leads into your business. So not everybody is going to be a client, but somebody is, right? Because we're here every day. Somebody's watching, but they're just not taking action yet. Hey, Lisa Marie.
Yeah, well, timing's everything, and there's only at any one point only 3% of your audience are actively looking for what you're offering. So people can see things, and it's not quite the right time because other things are happening. So when the timing's right, people will be looking out for what you're offering, and that's why you need to keep consistent. You need to keep getting in front of the people that can potentially buy from you, which is what essentially we help people do.
And that's important to know. So your go-to guy for Sales Navigator. And what we're going to do now is we're going to stop here and we're going to carry this conversation onto Instagram. So I'm inviting you to come and join us. And next week I go live with a wonderful guest on Thursday. If you don't know, I this show. Actually, I do one Saturday out of the month for international guests, and it's always fun to do something a little bit different from the regular schedule. But I always go live on Thursdays, and then a new episode of the podcast gets dropped on Thursday. And if you want to make sure you don't miss out, you just go ahead, check out the podcast, follow it, save it, do whatever you have to. I'm going to drop the links in the comments. But until my next live, I just want to say thank you to everybody who joined in the conversation, whether you're watching the live, the replay, or listening to the podcast. Both Philip and I truly appreciate you. And thank you, Philip, for being here today, sharing all this juiciness for us.
You're welcome.
Until the next live, bye, everybody.